It's an exciting Tuesday afternoon. We are here once again to take a look at issues as it affects you and I globally on International Forum. I am Wilson of Marshall. It is all about the new Prime Minister, LIZZ, that is making the rounds globally. Talking about the news, talking about expectations, talking about challenges, talking about both local and international relations of the UK. People have been talking about it. Some presidents, some prime ministers have been sending congratulatory messages, but some do have their reservations. What do you think this lady Liz would do differently from what Boris Johnson did? Boris Johnson just gave his, people call it, step aside speech, so to speak, and of course Liz gave her own acceptance speech because she was presented to the Queen of England, and that marks the beginning of her tenure as a Prime Minister. She gave UK 2 years for positive change. Do you think she'll be able to meet that mark when you talk about turning situation around for 2 years? Don't forget about the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Don't forget about also the inflation in the supply of gas with Russia closing major pipes supplying Europe. Tough times, real tough times. Anyway, with me here in the studio, I have an entrepreneur, a very vibrant youth, a mobilizer, a politician. Join me to welcome Etiosa Igebo. I used to call him Sonny. Etiosa, welcome to International Forum.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
I appreciate your coming.
Thank you.
I sit very close to him. He is a legal practitioner, public affairs commentator, human rights activist. Join me to welcome Barrister Emmanuel Obakpolo. Barrister, welcome to International Forum.
Good afternoon, viewers at home.
All right. It was like a two-horse race, neck to neck. There were 10, then 2, 5. All of a sudden, 2 of them, Sunak, Rishi, and LIZZ, and a decision was made. When LIZZ emerged as a new Prime Minister, what crossed your mind, Etiosa?
Well, personally, I think we've had certain conversations along these lines before, whilst we came here to talk about other aspects of international politics on this forum. I'm very sure that you remember that I mentioned that knowing fully well the way the political system works in the UK, that I'm very certain that LIZZ was going to emerge the winner. When you look at the point in time when these activities of who becomes the leader of the Conservative Party was ongoing, there was a point where they put some sort of a halt to it, took time out, probably to renegotiate, and then eventually decided who leads them. So I told you, I said, look, I don't think Rishi Sunak stands a chance because for reasons which I'm not going to mention on TV, and I told you that we should just look out that this, the lady will win because this is politics. This is one of the highest political office in the country, and evidently they will want to keep it closer to those aborigines, like the indigenous people who feel that they have the choice of first refusal to lead, and as such would want to make sure that they see one of them as the Prime Minister. So I wasn't surprised at all. I think it's something that I already see was coming, and at the end that is exactly what happened.
You were not surprised?
No.
Barrister, were you surprised?
Not at all, because at a point, her name became the only name that rings bell in the Parliament of England and even among the citizens of England. Going by policies, our promises to the English people, and also the situation that the world and England in particular is just now. She is likened to one-time political mother, Margaret Thatcher. So she's likened to her, and you know the weight that Thatcher had in her time. LIZZ possesses that characteristics. So at a point, it was obvious that she was going to carry the day. So it was not magical, it was real.
All right, someone like saying it's because of the genealogy, so to speak, of Sunak. That was the reason why he wasn't able to clinch that coveted office. How true is this assertion?
You mean in terms of his background?
Yes.
Where he's from? Obviously, like I just said, when I talk about the Aborigines, they're talking about the people who are the first citizens of that land. Like in Lagos, they say Monile to an extent. So the United Kingdom is made of England, Scotland and Wales. And Northern Ireland. So the English has the largest population, which is about over 40 million people. And Liz Truss happens to be an English woman. But when you look at Sunak, he's slightly from the Indian background. So that aspect of perhaps his maybe his mother or father's side plays a role in who leads in England. Because in England, as much as they say, with all due respect, that they are the inventors of democracy, there's still institutional racism within the system.
Racism?
Yeah, institutional racism. It's not open racism. Everybody is against racism, but it does still happen behind closed doors where people are able to say, well, I think we would prefer this person to that. For example, Barrister just made a likened reference
to
between
Margaret
Liz and Margaret Thatcher. But you know very well that Margaret Thatcher was the head of the apartheid. That was, sitting on people in terms of issues to do with the South African problems back in those days, and the very heavy-handed governmental and oppressive approach to how the Westerners engage with the Africans. So are we saying that because he made that references in terms of look or being a woman, does he kind of metamorphosize into her being also that sort of person with that kind of character when they likened Margaret Thatcher to Mrs. Thatcherism, which is one of the campaign slogans of the Labour Party when Tony Blair came on board.
Yeah.
That time they used a lot of negative political bandwagon effect on issues to say, well, Margaret Thatcher was very heavy-handed. She was a no-nonsense woman. She was not the type that was find resistance with anybody, and they even likened that to be called Thatcherism. So at the end, they lost that election. So to me, I think human race still has a long way to go. We can try as much as possible to want to see that we all on earth are children of God, but at the same time, the thin line or the invisible line of what differentiates us plays out in who becomes the Prime Minister in England.
All right, now he talked about institutionalizing racism behind closed doors, but not openly, that it has a kind of, a hold on whoever become the Prime Minister in Britain. I don't think you look at Sunak, yes, he has this Indian part of him, but still, he's a Briton. He's a British man, for crying out loud.
Just like my colleague analyst said, you cannot remove that in its entirety. England is also a home of racism, whether you believe it or not.
But they are saying they are not racist.
Yes, but we've seen it even in football, even in games. We've seen it happen all over Europe. And when it comes to leadership struggle, they still want to hold tight to that aspect because it's a factor. Race is a factor to the English politics. And they always want a homegrown, they always want a person that has the first-class citizenship, so to speak, of English. And that is just what they want. And they've succeeded because looking at Liz Truss, she happens to possess all of those qualities because she's a homegrown English. She's also a first-class citizen when it comes to citizenship of the English people. So
it's to lack not a first-class citizen also what about citizenship?
Based on his background is tied to somewhere. The English people are not that. I don't want to make a comparison here, but they are not like the Americans. In America, we've seen that somewhere, somehow, somebody who is from African genealogy suddenly became the president of America, and the heavens did not fall. But in England, they will tell you that the heavens will fall. So for that, to prevent the heavens not from falling, they will now try to do all they can to see that a first-class citizen emerges. And that is what we've seen just now. she has emerged. She has given them a lot of promises. Though politically, some of them are saying, oh, she has made a lot of promises, and these are the kind of promises we want to embrace. But there is more behind our emergence.
All right, there is more behind our emergence. We'll delve into it, but it's all about politics, about UK choosing who will lead them. And she's from the Tory party. Now, do you see her as a unifying factor in the House?
Well, I think the political system and the democratic system in England is on its highest level, irrespective of small, slight differences in terms of having somebody being profiled. As someone of a slightly different background, which happens behind the scenes. I think they still have one of the best democracies. I can say for a fact, in Europe, across board, even in America, England has the most tolerant racial profiling of people in their country. You can't compare England to other continental European countries or America. In England, they are more advanced in working on liberating and accepting other race compared to even America, for instance, compared to Italy or Spain or Germany. In those places, they are very openly racist, but in England, there are proper government intervention to make sure that when people are being treated in a racist way, there are laws that can also punish who is doing it. So they are leaders in terms of balancing the racial issue to the level at which he could ever get to anywhere in the world. Just to digress a bit on what he said and talked about the American state being tolerant with black people, but I want to let him understand that it is not necessarily so. England and the United Kingdom had the Welsh, the Scottish, Northern Ireland, and the English. The English has the highest population, and they were the colonial masters. So you cannot come to England, for instance, and have a non-indigenous person who is homegrown, like he said, who may end up jettisoning some of their values to not head them on that level. It is just a probability of assumption that where they might want to kind of shift it a bit. So they rather stick with what they've groomed to hold on to that values that make them a great country. When you go to Scotland, the Scottish leads Scottish Parliament and their Scottish leader. If it goes to Wales, the same thing happens. But in the case of America, American citizens today, or people who live in America, were occupiers. They were not really the real original Americans.
Like the Red Indians.
Americans were the Red Indians. So you can come to America and call it a beast of no nation, a state with no owner, like Lagos, where anybody can emerge and become the president of the country. But irrespective of that, from time immemorial, for over 400 years old democracy in America, you can still see that the colonial masters that colonized America still has their lineage along those lines on who governs America. The only time they lost it was when Bush left. Obama came from Obama to Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump slightly has a slight different background spanning to the eastern part of Europe. You can see the quarrels between them. So now we have Joe Biden, who is of an Irish background, which obviously falls back to the United Kingdom sort of platform sort of thing. And now, they are working and saying that, oh, well, this is the sort of president we want. So these things matters in politics when it comes to politics of that level, whereby you make a decision that can change anything. Let's say, for instance, there was no conflict, and people who is a peaceful person is a prime minister, they may not want to just jump into or delve into any war based on the ideology.
Okay.
You realize that maybe today the war would have been different.
Would have been different. Because you said in America, they don't have that mentality because Barack Obama emerged as the president of America. And right now, from what he said Britons are quite different. After all, they're like, the major, how will I put it now, tribe in the UK. You have the Three Lions and the rest of them. Do you think the prime minister position is strictly for the Britons?
Yes, that is the position just now. Maybe until somebody will come out and tell us that he has dreamt.
Like Joseph.
The American style, the American style and the emergence.
I have a dream
of Obama. There was a dream, and the dream eventually came to pass. So, but in England just now, we've not been able to see a personality that has come out to say, "I have dreams." Maybe we are waiting for that dream. But just now, the political style of an average Englishman is to see that the British, the English people, Centro Center, maintain the position of leadership. And that's why you see, even in the parliament, it's a tussle on the kind of policies that are made that affect the average Englishman. Because, just like he said, the British people, one, they are conservatives in nature. They are not dynamics. And they hold tight to what they believe. Mind you, even their laws are not outright written laws. Their laws are in their mind. So somebody who has his or her law or laws, as the case may be, in the mind, will also look for a place in that mind to preserve, reserve, and protect its culture. And that is what the English people are doing just now. And they'll be able to marry that with the kind of politics they play. So now when it comes to emergence of the leadership in the parliament, the Prime Minister of England, whether you like it or not, whatever is your background, whatever financial capacity you have, may not be a factor wherein you do not possess that first classship of an average British man or Briton. So their politics is a conservative one.
Right.
And over the years, they'll be able to preserve it.
Right.
And just now, they will not let it go.
Okay, now you just hold on if you just joined us. This is International Forum. UK Prime Minister Liz Truss, prospect and challenges. We want to go for a break. When we return, we introduce our next guest and you get to hear of his own opinions and view on the emergence of Liz Truss. Don't go away. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just join us, this is International Forum. It's a live studio. It's all about Liz Truss, prospect and challenges. And just join us right now in the studio. He's a lecturer in Uniben. Jeremy, to welcome, I like to call him comrade. Yeah. Felix Osaneme, welcome to International Forum. I appreciate your coming. Now, behind cameras, are saying that no, it's not possible for Sunak to emerge as a prime minister. You gave your reasons. I'd like you to share your thoughts and opinion with our audience out there. The person Sunak, and of course, Liz, they will not dive into the international relation, her stance in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Take it up from there.
I think anybody that is surprised that Liz Truss became the Prime Minister of England, of Great Britain, will be economical with reality and truth. I didn't actually expect Sunak to get the high office, even though we admit and we will see clearly that he is very, very qualified. He's competent. He has had a good show. He has been able to work at the highest level of government. He's been in parliament. That's ordinarily gives him an edge. But let's also not get gender sensitive. She's female, is male. Somebody will say what a man can do, a woman can do better. But our performance as foreign secretary has not really been very impressive. Even when she went to Russia, Sergei Lavrov of Russia actually said that it was like a dialogue between a deaf and a dumb person.
And a mute, yes.
You know, that she didn't come across as somebody that had the capacity to get the image of such a powerful country. But we cannot run away from the fact that this is a country that is established in tradition. And certain traditions in here, we don't change our names every day. The British should not suddenly realize that even though they are democratic, they are trying to present themselves as an open country that gives room for credibility and for efficient development of capacity. The British, I didn't expect that they will allow Sunak to become their prime minister. And I'm not surprised really, because they will go back and look at his parents. Where is he really from? He is British, he is educated, he died in the womb, but his ancestry is from where? We know that they have Indian ancestry, that's from the Asian continent. And this is Britain we're talking about. They may have mayors who are from different climes. Yeah. They have heads of different boroughs who are from different climes. This is an immigrant community. I agree. The success of Barack Obama in the US can easily be replicated in Great Britain. That's what just played out. It's not as if the man is not competent. In fact, he's better qualified than Liz Truss. But he cannot, at least for now, we do not expect. After Theresa May left and Boris Johnson came in, I was even surprised that someone like Boris Johnson took up, because Boris Johnson did not come across as somebody who can even actually lead Britain. He has this very class mentality. He's up there, coming from a very elitist background. The elite angle is what is playing out again now.
The elite angle?
Yes, it's the elite angle. It's not Sunak is not from a poor background. In fact, he's from a very wealthy background. But his ancestry, I mean, you are talking of Great Britain. And suddenly you see someone that looks like an Indian. And you'll be wondering, are these Britons that we are talking of or Indians?
Indians.
So there will be an identity challenge. And the party has picked the one that will represent the face of the nation and project the identity of the party. And she fits the bill very well. Not Sunak.
Not Sunak, because of his genealogy. Like what you said.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm not missing words about that.
Now, the number one promise she made was to tackle the high cost of energy in the UK. Do you think she can effectively carry this promise out to the maximum? Etiosa?
No, I don't think she can, because the problem that's got to do with energy, we all knew the genesis of the problems. We all knew why the country is having its challenges. That is predominantly one of my favorite countries as well. There was no doubt that when there's crisis between two countries, you know, if you like Russia and Ukraine, that there will not be shortcomings with regard to infrastructure and the dependence on Russian gas. You know, bringing in LNG from the US and whatnot, I think is something that even they themselves probably didn't think that deep enough before they jumped into the bandwagon, and now they are swimming in a pool of troubles everywhere. So for Liz Truss to come up and tell you that she can do miracles, between you and her, she's just playing politics. And that is usually one of the things that most people do, whether in a third world country or a first world country, that aspect of, you know, promises that is made politically just to get and make things happen the very moment you need them.
Yeah.
So the energy issue is a big one. But if peradventure she tries to persuade and convince our fellow compatriots like other countries like in the US and Europe to kind of find a way to dialogue on the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, maybe that way she can quickly help to kind of douse tension and get things back to normal.
All right. We want to go for a break. When we return, we'll continue with this discussion. Don't go away. Today on International Forum, the emergence of new UK Prime Minister Liz Truss challenges and of course prospect. Barrister Emmanuel, he said that she cannot do much about the energy crisis, but that seems to be her focal point, saying she's going to tackle it.
I don't see her doing that on the ground that she does not have much time on her hand. Election is just barely 2 years from now. And looking at the catalogue of crises that Britain is going through just now, and I see her, I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but I see her wobbling and fumbling to the extent that she's now making promises. She's not just talking about energy, she's also talking about tax reduction, and that she's going to reduce tax to the tune of 38 billion pounds. $44 billion. That is too extreme. That is too bogus, so to speak, for her. What she ought to do just now is first let her look as leader to calculate her time, and with a failure, quote now and unquote, in the foreign affairs ministry that she was not able to handle, and now coming in to be the Prime Minister of England, wherein she's going to face a bogus challenge that emanates from the Russian-Ukrainian war, internal challenges. Also, mind you, they also have a challenge that is silent just now. The is it Bristly?
Brexit, yes, Brexit, yeah.
That one is just silent, just now. That may also come up, and she will now be more confused, because now the energy crisis that England is going through is not just peculiar to England. Most of Eastern Europe is faced with it, and the kind of nature, the kind of character, the kind of democracy, the kind of government politics that is played in the Western world is different from that we play over here in Africa. There is this brotherhood, more like brotherhood they have over there, because of the kind of weather they have. By January, there is already prayers now that the cold,
the winter season,
should not increase, because if it does increase, then they are in for it. So how is she going to cope with that? Then talking of tax, to reduce tax, now you have more expenses and you say you want to reduce the tax. So there is going to be this politics crash. So I don't see her doing the magic. I don't.
Don't say doing the magic.
Yes,
Then can one deduce that all promises she's making to the UK Parliament and of course citizens, that these are just bogus promises?
Well, at face value, they will look as if they are bogus. Yes, she's just landing in the office, but she's not new to the game. I don't want to be too pessimistic. I want to give her a little window to prove herself.
A little window.
I'm using this concept of little window because sometimes you need to put somebody in the driving wheel to know that the person can perform. Some people, when they are your associates or assistants, they may not want to express because they don't take the blame. The ball is not in their court. They are not to be held to account. But in some cases, when they are now in charge, they begin to manifest traits that you will least expect. Let me give an insight to this. Concerning the energy crisis now, the energy crisis is not specific to Great Britain. It's European. Russia just turned off Nord Stream 1, which comes through Germany. I remember the inglorious Donald Trump, as people used to insult him left and right, warned Europe about this, that they are dependent on Russia, and that you cannot cede your supply of lifeline to somebody that is potentially your enemy. Because Russians, no matter how close they are to Europeans, they are still seen as the great enemy of Europe. They are friendly, but they always suspect the Russians. That has played out now. Trump will be laughing now and smiling. And if Trump said this, what was the alternate? In fact, Germany even went very far, capped all their coal mines. France is about to reopen her nuclear stations now. France has started rolling the plan now that by 2023, they will go back full nuclear. Environmentalists have been arguing left and right. No, this is damaging the environment. The world is warming up. Global, European,
and UK also, they're considering fracking.
They're going back.
They're talking about fracking right now.
Fracking is when you have crude oil. Of course,
yes.
Britain has oil in North Sea. They have. But you see, the timeline is dicey for them. Russian attack on Ukraine started in February this year, February 24th. Then, winter was just ebbing into spring. Now, we are about to enter autumn and go back to winter. So, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to, let me use the word, leapfrog. Because it's a short call. Now, France is considering getting gas from North Africa through Tunisia. There's a plan to even take from West Africa, but to pipe it, secure it, these are all long-term plans. In fact, right now, Europeans are looking at the greatest challenge they face in the long while. So it's not exclusive to Britain. That may give the TRUSS one small window to say it is not our problem, it's a general problem. Now let's talk about the tax cuts. Tax cut is always a very sweet offer. In Nigeria, what do politicians do to deceive people? They'll tell you, oh, we'll give you free education, free healthcare. Get the middle power officer, you get that. You will not get it. So in Britain, Liz Truss is becoming very, very smart in politics. She's not going to do tax cut for everybody. They will cut tax maybe for the poor, the lowest part, because they are the ones that will ramble. They are the ones that will go on rampage. She will target certain big firms and investors. They will target foreigners coming into the country. They will slam those ones with, you see, this so-called tax that she's talking of Did she tell you who she's going to cut it? So it's an open, what we call an amorphous statement. It's open-ended. You don't know where she's going to get it from, but she has promised it. By the time she's now saying, okay, this sector they are having too much free will, this sector they have had too much free loading, we have to cut down on this side. People will not complain.
They just wrote it out to paper.
Yes, she will just do it effortlessly. So that's why that was her argument when they were canvassing for this position. She has gotten the position now. People are now going to ask her, oh, how are you going to sustain this task force? She said, no problem. We'll look at the higher part of society, because normally the very wealthy class is not heavily taxed. That has always been normal thing.
Normal thing.
She may now tell them, if you don't support this project, it will collapse on you. You will lose more. Those who are at the bottom of society, the one we call masses in Nigeria, they don't have much to lose. So you have to allow us, take a little from them, take more from you, close the gap. Then they will fill it with foreign remittances and people, immigrants coming in. And go and look at the number of people emigrating into England on a daily basis. So she has a plan. This woman is also not, in fact, let me call her a closet racist. They don't really like others coming to their country, but they will see them as useful tools. They are going to bring people in to fill up. So when you tell you tax cut, it's not from those established people who work in 9 to 5, 8 to 4. No, that's where they're going to get the money from. Those ones are already in a very, very narrow bracket because those are going to meet increasing energy costs. That's already lead to a lot of rumble in England and other parts of Europe. So the tax cut is projecting, from the way I see it, is going to come from the higher part of society, the very wealthy and big time business. No, remember, you mentioned Brexit, which is also very good. They're no longer under EU. So they are free to now change certain law. The EU regulations that would have kept them bound, they will explore all possibilities now. In fact, as of yesterday, there was an argument again about Brexit. They brought up new arguments and that things that used to enter England freely will not come in. So they will increase their tolls. If you are bringing in goods, just that they are also going to send out things, they will pay. But they will make sure that what they have the competitive advantage in, the way Russia is using gas now as
a bargaining chip
for the war, that's what Britain is going to also do.
All right, let's see how all this will pan out. Now, Boris Johnson, the former UK Prime Minister, had a strong, firm stand against Putin in the invasion of Ukraine. Do you see LIZZ following suit?
Certainly, she is going to follow suit. From the way she has come on board and won with the issues of what, my brother here talked about, task cut. You can already tell that she's towing that path already. Because like I keep saying, this is one country that I understand very much, practically, not just on TV. From the issues of tax cuts for the poorer people, for instance, you cut taxes, you make life easier for people a little bit, increase it for the other richer guys. They know that many companies are making so much money, and at the end of the day, they can do away with making 100 billion a year to making maybe 70, 80 billion, and at the same time balance the books. But with regards the European thing and Eastern Europeans, I think my brother also mentioned that, or he mentioned that the problem has been endemic. It has always been there. No matter the amount of investors or the open arms that or the olive branch that is thrown towards China or Russia, one of those Eurasia countries, there's always a time like this when certain nerds, we call them nerds, comes on board and take things back and crash it back down again. And it just keeps the mind and soul busy. Because to me, all these conflicts are unnecessary distraction. And now it looks as if somebody is coming to become a messiah who will bring about this new idea of taking people to the Promised Land platform. But there's nothing really new nothing new comes out of Nazareth. It's the same old stories. It's the same old political games. It's the same old turning around of the wheel in the same circle. Same idea. Things get hard for people. They find it really hard. They complain. They bring a little bit of hope. All these are all
a little bit of hope.
Yeah, these are just probability. These are just comments that people talk about. He knows how they do it. And then they do that. Well, to me, when he talks about politicians, the politics in a Western country is very different from the politics here. In the West, the countries are well established because they've had democracies for 400, 500 years, old democracy. I think Nigerian democracy started in 99. We're not even 30 years old yet. We're just spanning beyond the second decade. Because I agree that because I agree that our people are very intelligent and smart, they could have made a difference. But from the time that democracy has started. But one thing you need to understand, likewise with the European countries like England or United Kingdom, they have this way of grooming young politicians who are to become leaders. As I think you can remember some time ago, there was a problem in Norway where a gunman killed some young leaders. These were young men. These were young men that were being groomed to take over from the current leadership.
Leadership camp.
Yeah, leadership camp. So when you go to Europe and America and most of these countries, they groom leaders like you groom footballers. They groom leaders like you search for talents. Unlike in Africa, where you cannot really make a comparison between the politics here in Africa, which obviously I'm not too indebted and enact into the doctrine of the African politics, because I've been a resenting voice in the party of why we should do things that way. Is because in these Western countries, many more people, a large number of people have a basic standard life. Social life is good, security is the same for everybody, infrastructure is steady, power supply is not rationalized and prioritized for the upper, middle, and lower class. So unlike here in Africa, it's more like the rich and the poor. The very super rich and the very majority
extreme
of
poor,
super
abject poverty,
And at the end, I don't see any wheel in motion to a very large extent, looking at Nigerian state as a case study from 1999 as to what is being put on ground to either group leaders or look at a futuristic idea of improving on the well-being of the people. It's just from one catastrophe and calamity to the other to a large extent. But I believe that in all of that, no matter how bad it may be for Africa, I think we still have areas whereby we are doing well, maybe the resentment, the resilience of the people, some people who are also speaking out like I am to say that we need to do things the right way. And to a large extent, there is hope. There is hope
for Africa. All right, now back now to the UK, because right now, from what he said, it's going to be like the Robin Hood kind of system. Rob the rich to pay the poor. When we talk about the tax code, it's going to target the upper echelon, target some strong firms, and relieve the poor masses of a huge tax. But take a look at what is happening right now, the promises that she made, and of course what is happening in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, and of course the Brexit you talked about. Do you think she can figure out a way out of all this within the 2 years given to her?
I still maintain my stand. From the outset, I did say that the promises she has made is a very bogus one, and swimming against the tide. Just now, because she is going to swim against the tide. I think about now she's been sworn in as the Prime Minister of England, so she has a lot on her hands. And I, for one, am also considering the time, because like I did say, 2 years from now there will be another election, and mind you, within the space of 6 years now, Britain has produced 4 ministers, 4 prime ministers. Sorry, 4. So the possibility of another minister emerging even before the expiration of the next 2 years is high.
It's high.
The possibility.
Why do you have the mentality that is high?
I just tell you, within the space of 6 years, 4 ministers. So arithmetically, the ministers have spent 1 year plus. That's what it means. So for her to now be the one that will end the remainder 2 years is a question, 1 million naira question for everyone to answer. So looking at the possibility, now the time frame for her to fulfill, just like Prof said, permit me, how she's going to dabble her way out of the challenges facing our country just now is an Herculean task. Because now, I do not know how they are going to play the political game of trying to see that the war between Russia and Ukraine is stopped. If that war ceases just now, I can assure you that the possibility of her achieving her promises will be 70%. But if that war lingers, I I do not know, I do not see how she's going to dribble her way out. So, coupled with the situation the whole world is facing now, there are other challenges that are so silent just now. Then, January is almost here, or we are almost in January.
And the winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
Wow.
So how is she going to do all of this? Then for the tax cut that she talked about, and I know that she's saying it's one of her policies. How looking at the there is this global shake in terms of trade, business, tax, because the world is still dreaming of how to come out totally from the catastrophe caused by COVID-19. It's still there. In that place, these persons are realists. They are not like us here who wouldn't want to tell the people the truth. Our politicians are being economical with the truth. Over there, they will say, tell us the truth. And they have this doctrine of telling the truth. So all of this come together, it is going to be a huge one for her.
All right.
I don't want to be a prophet of doom, like I did say, but I wonder if she's going to dribble her way out.
Gentlemen, we have 1 minute each to summarize our point because our time is almost up. If you really want to advise this woman, what would be your advice?
Well, I will believe that she should adopt a pragmatic approach, which is that first, she cannot stop the war in Ukraine, because she didn't even, they were not the major players. It was actually the US that Russia was targeting when the attack on Ukraine was launched. So she should play the transatlantic accord of working closely with the US and also across the English Channel to work closely with France and other mainland European powers, Germany, Italy. These are the key powers in mainland Europe. If she's able to harness a very functional relationship with these powers, meeting some of her objectives will be easier, because it is only she takes on upon herself to say it is England, Great Britain, that want to determine how Ukraine war will go, that will run into conflict of interest. And the other issue of energy management, as I said, they are already considering reopening their nuclear options. Then they are also taking on transatlantic supply of LNG, which is going to be more expensive. But as I also mentioned, which I must quickly establish here, they have reserves that sustained them during COVID. The reserves are just going up again when the Ukraine war started. So those reserves are still going to be there to carry it for a short while.
All right, thank you.
There may be a little bit of silver lining for LIZZ TRUSS as the new Prime Minister of Great Britain.
Thank you so much. Your 1 minute starts now.
Well, I think I want to differ slightly from what you said. I think the best bet is you don't necessarily stop a war because you started a war. England is a country that colonized many other countries, including America. They have special relationship. England and America does. Instead of how to teach towards working with Europeans who are already bending down and they can't lift you up, it is better for her to engage with the American fellow brothers and see how they can go about stopping the war in Ukraine and Russia. If they can start negotiating with the Russians and the war is put to an end, I believe that she'll do well as a Prime Minister.
All right, thank you so much. 1 minute.
I think our foreign policy will be our strength.
Our foreign policy.
Able to establish a good foreign policy.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. At the end of this discussion, they were all focusing on foreign policies, how to solve the Ukraine-Russia problem. If she's able to do it, then all her promises may just be done and dusted. But the big question right now is, within 2 years, we should be able to do that. The question is left for her, and of course the British Parliament to answer. Gentlemen, once more, appreciate all your wonderful analysis. Next week Tuesday will be yet another time for another edition of International Forum. Bye for now.